Welcome to Avant-Garde Entrepreneur. I am so glad you're here today with me, my friend. This show is uniquely designed to help you skip the overwhelm, burnout, frustration, and all the icky stuff by borrowing from the best minds of the things that actually work. Today, we are talking about sales and entrepreneurship. If you've been listening as this episode goes live, you know that we had an Uplevel Your Impact Business series, and where we covered the fundamentals and the trends of some of the most popular topics on the show. So, marketing in episode 63 with Sydney Sam, finance in episode 64 with Leslie Hassler, and fundraising and pitch deck creating in episode 65 with Scott Nichols. So, if you've not listened to those, be sure to cue them up to listen to them after this episode. We're adding one more topic to the Uplevel Your Impact Business series: sales. Specifically, the mindset around sales and social entrepreneurship. Sales is also a really popular topic in business in general, but specifically in social entrepreneurship because number one, well, we all want more sales. And number two, the deeper issue I've noticed is that, especially in social entrepreneurship, we're so focused on caring for our beneficiaries, which is the reason why we exist. But this is a different type of energy than generating sales. However, the more profit we make, the more people we can help. And it's not easy to find someone who really gets impact in social entrepreneurs and can talk about sales in a way that connects. It really has to be someone I know well and I really connect with personally. So Stephen Ross, the author of Doors Open When You Knock, talked about overcoming the mindset challenges in episodes 30 and 31. And I'm always blown away when I look at the number of views on this episode. Since then, I've not found anyone that resonated with me around the topic of sales until now. During the weeks that I was recording the Uplevel Your Impact Business series, I met a wonderful guy named AJ Vassar. AJ was born in the US, but followed his heart to Medellin, Colombia, where he created a life for himself. AJ is an author, small business systems engineer, professional speaking coach, and the host of the Business Problem Solver podcast. He asked me to be a guest on his show talking about you. As I asked AJ about himself, I realized that he had this incredible gift for connecting with people, perhaps because of, not in spite of, the challenges that he experienced in his own life. So I shared with him that a missing element I had in the lineup for spring was a guest expert on sales. And I saw him sort of cock his head and move in his chair when I mentioned this. And then I asked if he'd like to be a guest on the show to talk about sales mindset. He lit up like a Christmas tree and said, "Sales? I love talking about sales." So AJ is here to share his story, impart wisdom from his mentors, and give us practical tips and strategies so that we can align our entrepreneurial spirit with our mindset around sales so that selling can become more a natural extension of how we support our purpose and passion, the beneficiaries we care so much about. And my hunch is that there's going to be some laughing because AJ is a funny guy who keeps it real. AJ, thank you so much for being here with us today.
Thank you for having me. Every speech I do from now on, I want you to do my introduction.
Oh,
Yes, you made.
oh, thanks.
As I was listening, I was like, "Wow, who is she talking about?" I want to. I love it.
Oh, you're so welcome. So welcome. I have loved learning about you, AJ. It has been so fun this past month getting to kind of dive into, after we met, I obviously listened to found you online and listened to some of the things and to hear how, you're so esteemed and you just really seem to bring out the best in people. And I'm really excited to have you on this show. So
I'm excited to be here. I appreciate the invitation. I like you said in yours. I was actually trying to interview for mine.
yeah.
And then you told me like, "Hey, I want you to come on here." So this is great. This is great. Thank you so much.
So, AJ, a lot of the listeners, most of my listeners on this show are from outside the US.
Mhm.
So there is this perspective of what it's like to be American comes from Hollywood. It's highly glamorized, highly false. And it's just not at all what the vast majority of the American population, that's not how we live. Even with this, even though that's not the road that most Americans have, you've had an even tougher road in your life. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself, like where you grew up and what your early career was like?
I come from a single parent household. I'm the oldest of 8 children from my mom. And, it was, I used to say I grew up poor until I took a trip to Trinidad. Then I realized I just grew up less fortunate. But for me, what made it very challenging was the environment I grew up in. Where I grew up, the only people we had to look up to were really drug dealers. Those were the people that had nice cars, they had money, they had disposable income, right?
Mhm.
Everybody else was struggling paycheck to paycheck. And if you missed a paycheck, that was it. In my neighborhood, it was you either become a drug dealer or you make it in sports. And I love sports, but I wasn't that good at sports. I was not blessed to be an athlete. I really had to struggle, but that was my passion. So I dealt with a lot of fighting. People that I grew up with, like, have literally got their brains blown out, like, probably 100, 200 yards from my house.
Mm,
One guy named Chad Knight, like, I remember him, like, literally that happened, and his mother went and picked up his brain particles off the ground
mm,
and stored them in her freezer, and it really messed with her. That was the environment that I grew up in. So it was normal to not be successful or be successful selling drugs. I didn't want to take that route. I knew I was going to have a hard time making it in sports because that's all I knew because I wasn't very athletic. But I just, it was almost that if there's a will, there's a way. And that was kind of how I started my focus. My mother has a lot to do with my upbringing and my mentality because she truly believed that spare the rod, spoil the child.
mhm.
So I was more afraid to get beat by her than getting beat up by others. So I would let them beat me up so I'd be safe at home.
Yes. When mom is happy, everybody's happy.
But, even if I got a black eye from somebody else, at least it wasn't from mom.
Yes, yes,
So,
yes.
but I think that everybody has their hardships, and it's all about how you view your hardships. I remember there were several winters where we would have to sleep in front of the stove because we didn't have heat in the house. And my mother would just tell us that we were having a picnic,
Oh,
right? Like we really don't have the
yeah.
picnic.
Yeah.
She would cook
Wow.
like little hamburgers and stuff, and we was cool because it was like, oh, we get hamburgers tonight, like in front of the stove. I never knew that we were really struggling. I didn't know
Mm,
that we didn't have heat anywhere else. Like you don't even think about that. So what that allowed me to do was, as I've gotten older, even during my hard times, I just always think this is going to be a great part of my story.
yeah.
Like that's always my attitude, no matter what I'm going through. This is going to be a great part of my story. And every story that we love, if your audience thinks about it, think about all the stories that you love. It's probably because of all the hardships they came through to get to the other side. Most of us want to create great stories for our lives, but we want to skip the hard part. It's not possible. That's
Mhm.
how the great story is made. If not, you just have a story. So for your listeners, the ones that's struggling, just know that whatever you're going through, no matter how hard it is, if you remind yourself that this is just going to make my story better, then it really makes it easier to go through it.
I really resonate with that. I've thought a lot about that. It's not what we see on social that people want to share. It's the backstory that really resonates with people. It's what it took to get to that point where you can post a picture on LinkedIn or Instagram where you've got it together because an hour before or the day before, you might have just felt like your whole world was falling apart. All the good things that come from life usually start from something rough. Yeah.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
I remember, and this is the stuff that entrepreneurs don't like talking about until they've made it. But I remember in 2012, January 2nd, I didn't have any food. Like I didn't have any
Mm,
food. I had made the first sale in the business for a company that me and my cousin had started.
mm,
And he was excited and he was like, yo, we gonna celebrate. He bought some Chick-fil-A over. And I didn't understand. invoices.
Mhm.
So the lady told us to invoice her and she had paid on the 15th, so my cousin came over, he was eating his sandwich and he dropped it on the floor. And, unfortunately back then I wasn't a great cleaner. So it was unsalvageable. He could not so he took his sandwich, he put it up and he put it in the bag and he threw it away. What my cousin didn't know was I hadn't eaten in like a day or two because I didn't have no food.
Mm,
So when he left later on that night, I went and got his sandwich out the garbage can.
mhm.
That was my dinner that night because I made the sale like earlier that day.
Yeah.
His sandwich was my dinner that night
Mhm.
because that's all I had. But to me, times like that test your character because I knew I could believe that this was going to work out and know that one day I will be somewhere and I'll be able to tell this story and say I didn't quit. And
Yeah.
that's always been my mindset. This is
Yeah.
just gonna be part of my story.
Yeah, that's a great way to look at it because for most of us, life is not easy. It's not what you see on TV. And there's a whole different thing that goes on whenever we're online or in person. This is like a really tiny, tiny, tiny micro part of our a story, and it's the highlight. It's not what it's like what you said. It's not the character that was built in us along the way. Is what came from the difficult times that it took us to get there. Yeah,
Definitely. And life isn't we can't edit life.
yeah,
That's the thing that I think entrepreneurs don't think about. Like, we can't edit this thing.
mm,
So I was homeless in 2014. My first day having to sleep in my car was April 20th, 2014. And it's easy for me to say I was homeless for 3 months. But those 3 months was 24 hours every day for 3 months,
yeah.
right? When I say it now, I can say it within 10 seconds.
And you didn't know at the time it was gonna be only 3 months. I mean, 3 months and every day is a long time, but when you're living in your car, you don't know it's gonna only be you don't know it's gonna be 3 months. It could be most people think once they're in their car, it's their whole life.
Exactly. Exactly. So I just had a routine. I knew
Yeah.
that I could afford a membership in the gym,
Mhm.
right? So I had a membership in Gold's Gym. So I knew I can go there and take a shower. And then I knew I could eat peanut butter and jelly. I like peanut butter and jelly, so I was gonna make that happen. That was a childhood thing that we did growing up, and I still liked it. And a lot of people ask, AJ, you come from such a big family. How did you end up homeless? And I have to tell them, like, I had a mentor named Sam Shepard. And Sam was the first millionaire earner in Primerica. So at the time, Sam Shepard was making like $140,000 a month.
Mhm.
So I told Sam, I was like, Sam, I'm about to be homeless. I'm gonna move back to Texas with my mom until I get back on my feet, and then I'll move back out to Atlanta. And Sam said, no, you're not. And I was like, oh, this is great. Sam is about to give me some money. Like, like Sam was gonna look out.
Jackpot.
Like, Sam, my man Sam, right? Because I'm thinking, well, he makes $140,000 a month. He'll give me something. Sam said, no, you're not. He said, you don't want to start a bad habit of running away from your problems now,
Mhm.
because that's what you'll just continue to do. He said, I have a safe parking lot for you to sleep in because you'll learn more from your car than you ever will running from your problem. And that changed my life. So it wasn't that I didn't have a place to go. It's that I knew that this was a problem I didn't need to run from. That was my mentality. I can't run from this anymore. And I started figuring it out. Started figuring it out. So now I really have a heart for people that are going through the process because I know what it's like. I know you think you're never gonna get out of it. I know it seems like this is gonna be my life forever,
Mhm.
but it's not. As tough as it is, as many nights as you cry. I used to have this thing that I would say, I like to cry in the shower so I don't feel the tears run down my face. And you have those nights where you don't know,
Mm.
but I promise you, if you keep going, things will start changing. And people will look at you and say, man, I can't believe you did that. And they'll make it seem like it was one night. And you'll realize it was many nights, but I made it.
Do you remember your first night out of your car? Or I mean, maybe you stayed with a friend here, every
Yeah,
every now and then, but do you
yeah.
what happened that got you out of your car into a more stable, four walls home environment?
Sales.
Sales. Oh, wow.
Sales. So, and I did something very stupid. I would never advise anybody to do this, but it was a part of my journey. I started selling in my car. I was contacting people. I was reaching out. I had a lot of time. All I needed was power. If I had power, I had my laptop, I had my phone. I'm setting up meetings. I'm going to see them because they can't come see me because I'm in my car. So I would love to come see you. Yes. And I started just believing in myself. And I really started learning that sales was about conviction. Sales is just a transfer of conviction and beliefs, right? If I truly believe it's going to help you, then sales isn't hard because I'm truly just trying to look out for you. And if that's my attitude, and if I'm doing that from a genuine heart, people can feel it. And I started selling. And at the time, I had a mobile marketing business where I sold apps and text message marketing. And I was just going around to clients and, hey, you should get this. And, hey, what do we got to do to make it work? And 3 months to the day that I was homeless, I actually moved into a penthouse in Atlanta, Georgia. Dumbest thing I've ever done. But at the time, I felt like I needed it because I was like, hey, I've made it. I've made it. Now, I did have a roommate. I will say that. I did have a roommate, but I was in a penthouse and I wanted to write a book called From Homelessness to High Rise. And I was like, oh, I had it all planned out. And it was literally sales that got me out. I was thankful for being in a place, but I actually missed my car.
Interesting.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
actually missed my car.
Yeah.
Uh, It was because when you're going through it, that's where your character is built. That's where you have those tough conversations with yourself. That's how I realized we're programmed. Like all of us are programmed. And if we don't work on our programming, our lives will never change. So I like to do this thing when I'm speaking at events. I'll say things like, I'll show them how they're programmed and I'll say, like a good neighbor, right? They call me, right?
Yeah.
And I'll say, we will,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
Exactly. So I'll say, whoever taught you that, right? Nobody ever taught us that, but it's in us. What I started realizing was, what other programming do I have in me? Because the way I grew up, people would always say it takes money to make money,
Funny.
right? Money doesn't grow on trees,
Trees.
right? Money is the root of all evil.
Evil.
All rich people are going to,
Hell. Wow. That's a lot
there you
that
go.
we've been programmed to.
Oh,
Wow.
exactly.
Yeah.
If I didn't change my programming, I wasn't going to change my life. And I realized if I didn't change my programming on sales, I wasn't going to change my life because a mentor of mine, Dennis Vincent, told me that entrepreneur was just a fancy word for salesman.
I resonate with that. Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's a fancy word for salesman because you're either going to be selling your product
Mhm.
or you're going to be selling ideas. But either way, you're going to be selling. So I had to change my programming on sales.
Mhm.
And that's where a lot of us get caught up. It's because we've never challenged our programming when it came to sales. When I do events, I'll ask the people in the audience, when I say salesman, tell me all the words you could think of, right? Sleazy, liars, car sales.
Used cars.
Right, right, right. Funniest one I heard was a lady said commission breath. I was like, I've never heard that, but I
Me
like.
neither.
She said
Yeah.
commission. So once I get finished, I show them if this is what you think a salesman, why would you ever want to become one? So I would ask your audience, think of all the words when you think of salesman. Write them down. And don't get cute now because I just said, why would you want to become it? But honestly, think of all of the words that you associate with salesman. Because unless you clear out that programming, you're always going to run away from being that. And that's the exact thing that's stopping you.
So, how would you guide your audience to clear out the programming of those words?
I call that a program audit.
Okay.
Then we do a program challenge, and it's where you challenge it. So, yes, in the movies, salesmen are sleazy, they are slimy, right? But have you ever met a salesman that wasn't? Have you ever met a salesman that really cared about you? Have you ever met a salesman that wanted the best for you? Because if you have, then we can't say that all people are like that. We can't say all salesmen are like that. All salespeople are like that. All right. Have you ever met someone that knew it wasn't in your best interest to do this, so they told you? How did you feel about them? And for most of us, we've encountered at least one person that did that. And for a lot, if we sit back and think about it, we encounter more great salespeople than are not. The reason why it's hard to recognize them sometimes is because they're not the loud ones. If I'm talking to you about something and I know that it's in your best interest and I give you another recommendation, you'll just say, that's a good guy. No, I'm not a good guy. I'm a good salesperson. But you don't give me that title.
Mhm.
We only give the title to the sleazeballs. But give me the title too. One of the best compliments that I've gotten over and over. And I think the first one to give me a compliment, the compliment was a woman named Nicole Bonecki. She got on a sales call with me and she said, I'm letting you know right now, I'm not buying anything. And I said, I haven't offered you anything, so I hope not. By the end of the call, she's laughing and she says, how did you get me to buy this? And I said, I didn't. You wanted it. This is the thing you have to realize in sales. We can't make anybody buy. I've never made anybody buy. What I do is I give them an opportunity to elevate. I educate, they elevate. I know my role, I let them play their role. That's it. So nobody ever feels like they're being sold by AJ because I can't make you. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah. So true.
to make a sale, I have the power to educate you, show you why it's in your best interest, show you the pros and cons, and then I give you the opportunity to elevate or not.
Hmm.
And I don't put no emotion goes into your elevation because that's your decision.
That's between them and their maker. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That,
Thinking about something that comes to mind, I think there's a lot of research out, but I think Johns Hopkins put out a study recently that when it comes to introverts and extroverts, people who we would consider the louder people, 70% of the population are extroverts. So they like putting themselves out there. And 30% are more introverts where, they really get recharged and prefer to be alone. And sometimes, well, often, always need to be alone at some point to recharge. According to my research and working with social entrepreneurs, the opposite is true. 70% are introverts and 30% are extroverts. So we have this audience they're audaciously solving the world's most wicked problems. And it involves being around a lot of people and bringing people along with them. And most of them are totally drained by being around people. But yeah, this is their mission and that's what they're called to do. Can you be an introvert and be good at sales?
hope so, because that's what I am.
Oh, right.
Yes, I am
Talk
very comfortable.
Yeah,
I,
tell me about that.
when people see me out or they see me at events, they're like, "Oh my God, AJ, you know everybody, you light up the room, you must be an extrovert." And I'm like, "Y'all have no idea. I can't wait till this is over." Like I am counting the seconds until this is over because I recharge by myself. I like silence. I like my thoughts. I like running back the plays and like that's where I recharge. Extroverts get the attention because they're the loud ones. They're the life of the party. People are like, oh my God. I remember, I think it was Zig Ziglar that said it's only 5 negative people in the world. He said the problem is they just go everywhere real fast. Right.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's how extroverts are. We think more people are extroverts just because they're the life, they're louder. But if you didn't see me in my alone time, you may think I was an extrovert. And that's only because I built the skill to be in public. I built the skill to understand how to hold conversation and how to be interested in people. That's really my secret to seeming extroverted. I'm just interested. I'm genuinely interested. So people are like, "Oh man, you must be extroverted." No, I've learned how to be interested. I can find a way to be interested with anybody, right? Because everybody has a story and everybody is important to them. So since you're important to you, I'm going to make you important to me. I played this game with myself. If I knew they were a billionaire, would I be more interested in them? Of course I would. So I just try to treat everybody like they're a billionaire, right?
I
But
like that.
with introverts, I think the reason why we are good at sales is because we do have to build those skills, right? There's a story about a horse trainer, and he says some horses they're so good. If you lift the whip, you don't even have to hit them. They'll run fast. Other horses, you have to hit them and they'll run fast, right? And then you have the horses that you have to hit hard to run fast. And they're like, which horse would you want to be? And everybody's like, I want to be the horse that doesn't need to get hit. It's like, but the best horses are the ones that get hit because they feel it to the core. Like to the core of them, they know how to run. And for introverts, I feel like to the core, we've understand I have to build the skill of being interested. I have to build the skill of active listening. I have to build the skill of being present because it's not easy for me. So to an extrovert, that's more natural. They never have to build the skill. So it's certain things that they don't learn during that process that we're learning. Oh, okay, I should ask everybody this question because this is the question that really brings the truth out of people. Extrovert may never know that because they're like, I get to talk, I'm talking, they're talking, we talking, everybody had a good time. But you said a word earlier, connection, right? An introvert will connect more because we have to. We had to learn the skill of connecting because we don't do it naturally. I'll tell you this one thing that's funny. I remember I went and spoke, I had a speaking engagement on a cruise ship and my brother came and I went and spoke and everybody was like, oh my God, that was amazing. And afterwards he was like, why are you over here with us? Like, go, like they want to talk to you. And I was like, I'm in the corner like this. And I'm a big guy, like I'm 6'3", 250. And I'm in the corner like this hiding because I I I like being alone.
You and I are so similar in that respect. Yes, I totally yes. I just wanna be in my little happy place with my little family, my little safety zone. Something that you mentioned too, I wanna make sure the listeners understand this, especially since a lot of people English is their 2nd or 5th language, unlike us Americans who typically only speak maybe 1. Well, you probably speak quite a few more, AJ, since you live in South America, but
Two. I'm
2,
at two
2,
right now.
2, 2. So you said we need to be interested. And I want to clarify that you said AJ says that we want to be interested, not interesting.
Correct.
And I think a lot of times as introverts, we feel like we've got to be interesting, like we've got to have stories or we've got to, that's the pressure, I think, that we've got to have the right words to say. And what you said, I think, really resonates with a lot of us that it's about being interested. So it's not about the you or me having the right things to say. It's about having the right questions to ask so that other people can speak.
I think people would be so shocked how many people in the party will like you if you just ask them questions about them. They won't know anything about you, but they'll tell everybody you're a great person
Yeah.
because you're the first person that listened.
Yeah. So true. So true.
Especially if you go to a networking event,
Mhm.
everybody's trying to tell everybody about themselves. You be the one that asks the questions. It makes you different. It makes you stand out. It makes people remember you, right? And it's like, man, because you have to think when people go to networking events, they're trying to be heard. You're probably the only person in the room that ever heard them.
Yeah.
And because of that, they like it.
Yeah. So true. Takes a lot of
They
the pressure off when you think of it that way.
It does. So my thing is just I want to learn about everybody else.
Yeah, and they're probably gonna be asking someone else about you. He's a really great guy. And
Yeah.
eventually somebody will tell them what you do, and they're gonna be like, "Wow, that's incredible. I would have never known." It's amazing.
I've been to networking events where people come up to me and say, "Man, I keep hearing your name." Like, and I'm thinking, "Oh, okay." They're like, "Man, like, you know everybody in the room." I'm thinking, I know nobody in the room. And they actually don't know me. All they know is I listen.
Mhm.
And if I can, I give them a somebody that they can talk to. So I love playing connector.
Yeah,
So if I can be a connector, people love me.
yeah.
So even with you, like with podcasting, just so your audience knows how real this is, before we started talking, I was like, hey, I got some people I want to connect you with
Yes. Yeah,
because
yeah,
because people want to be connected.
yeah,
And when I can connect them, now I've done goodwill for two parties.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
and you feel good yourself. So, yeah,
Yeah.
the little spark. When it comes to sales, and I know we're talking about sales and entrepreneurship pretty much being the same thing, is there a framework that you have, like a business framework for sales that sort of is your well, I guess you could say the guiding framework for how you approach business?
I will tell them what I call my profitable persuasion framework. I got this from Blair Warren. He has a book called The One Sentence Persuasion Course, and he goes into it more deeply. I actually had to put it into my own framework to remember it, right? But that he's the originator of it. But I call it my profitable persuasion. People will do anything for those who promote their dreams and aspirations, pardon their failures, put their fears to rest, prove their suspicions and assumptions, and partner in their protests. I'm going to walk your audience through this and I'll tell them who I learned it from to prove that it was right. I went and looked at the life of Martin Luther King. I looked at the life of Gandhi. I looked at the life of Hitler. I looked at the life of Marshall Applewhite, who got 39 people to kill themselves. I studied Jim Jones, who got people to move down to South America and sell all their stuff and give it to them. And I realized it's not a right or wrong thing. It's just a persuasion thing. I know a lot of your audience isn't in the US, but a lot of people know about the US and what's
Yeah,
going on.
absolutely. Yes.
So
They usually know more about what's going on in the country than I do.
I'm gonna show you this in real time, how this works. So
Okay.
they can see it play out. Promote their dreams and aspirations. Make America great again. That promotes dreams and aspirations,
Mhm.
right? Pardon their failures. It's not your fault. They're bringing people from shithole countries. They're taking your jobs. Okay. But pardon their failures. It's not your fault. That's what pardon their failures means. It's not your fault. Put their fears to rest. I alone can fix it. They're not coming after me. They're coming after you. I'm just in their way. Prove their suspicions and assumptions. The deep state is out to get you. The elites are ruining your life. It's the elite's fault. Partner in their protest. Lock her up, drain the swamp. It was played out perfectly for us right before our eyes. I haven't even said his name, but everybody knows what I'm talking about. That's how good, that's what I'm saying. Like, I think a lot of times we need to not focus on the person that's doing it, but focus on what they're doing. Because, like I said, I've seen Martin Luther King do this. I've seen Gandhi do it. So it's not a good or bad thing.
Mhm.
It's just, do you understand how to use that? So when we're talking about sales, if you notice, the one thing I didn't mention was anything about me.
Mm. Mhm.
I said, promote their dreams and aspirations, pardon their failures, put their fears to rest, prove their suspicions and assumptions, partner in their protests. I never mentioned myself. And if you can take the spotlight off of you and really focus it on them and help get them what they truly have dreams and aspirations for, you can sell anything because sales is nothing but persuasion. That's it.
So true. So true. So when you're connecting with people and you're meeting people, whether it's somebody who you know is a billionaire or someone you know is not, is there one question that you know is like, if there's one question I could ask across the board that's going to get some established connection or is really going to help me, what would that question be? What's the most important question to ask when it comes to connecting with people?
If you have somewhat of a rapport
Mhm.
and it's you've got through the hey, my name is right. The one question I would say to ask is, and it starts with a statement. Life is extremely hard. So what makes you wake up every day? Because most of us, some people don't want to wake up every day.
Yeah.
And we get a chance to acknowledge that, yo, like even with billionaires, life is hard for them.
Mhm.
Like everybody has problems. Problems don't go away.
Mhm.
Right? You just have new problems at different levels. I have the saying that the highest level we can ever get to is 10. Because once you get to 10, you just go to one on another level. So even though you went to the next level, you're back at the bottom. So it's still hard. Everybody is experiencing hard.
Mhm.
And everybody has to have a reason to wake up the next day. So I want to find out what that reason is.
Mhm.
Because now we can get into who you really are and what really drives you. And we can get past the fluff.
The name of your podcast is so appropriate, the Business Problem Solver Podcast. We're all we're all in entrepreneurship, we're all solving problems. We're solving somebody's problem.
Business is made to solve problems. That's the point of business. So I like talking to entrepreneurs about the problems they solve.
Mhm.
The more you know the problem you solve, the better you are at helping people. The ones that have a harder time in entrepreneurship are the ones that don't understand the problems they solve. Because once I know what problem I solve, I can identify who I solve it for. And I can start to identify the type of people that have this problem and what the symptoms look like. Because in business, a lot of times, to me, problems are like headaches. And when you have a headache, a lot of times you think it's something wrong with your head. But science tells us that most of the time we have headaches because we're dehydrated. But most people wouldn't put together, my head hurts, so I need water.
Mhm.
And when you're in business and you become good at solving your problem, you can do that for your clients. This is the symptom, but you can understand this is the problem.
If there's a myth around sales, I know you work with a lot of people. If there's a myth around sales, what would that be?
That sales is hard. That's the biggest myth around sales. Sales is hard. Sales isn't hard. Sales is a skill. And it's like any skill. You have to build it. And it's only hard when you haven't built the skills. I believe that the fact that, especially with your audience, they speak several languages, learning another language is hard. Sales isn't hard. Sales is just making offers
Mhm.
and understanding what people want, right? And you have to understand that with your product, how do I sell them what they want, but at the same time, give them what they need? I have a great story about this. I used to work with a company T. Harv Eker started called Peak Potentials. And we had what was called the Millionaire Mindset. And they would do Millionaire Mindset weekends. And I was one of the crew members. And we would take them through this whole thing about money, and everybody would come because they wanted to have a millionaire mindset. And on the last day, we would be in a circle holding hands and listening to this song about forgiving our fathers. And people would be crying. If we would have told them this was about forgiveness, they wouldn't have came.
Right.
But we told them it was about money. So we sold them what they wanted and they left with what they needed.
So true. That's amazing.
I would say this, and I didn't want to end the podcast without saying this to your audience. Most of our biggest problem in sales is wanting to hear yes. Wanting to hear yes. Stop going for yes. Be comfortable with no. Right? I have my students do what I call project no. So every week I make my students get a certain amount of no's every week. I don't care how many yeses you get. I want you to get a certain amount of no's because you have to start being comfortable with no. And what happens is, as we transition, I start even teaching them how to only want no's. And I'll give you an example. And Trisha can, if she goes back to her email, she will see this. When I sent you an email about being on your podcast, I said, are you opposed to a 9-minute conversation? Because I want you to say, no,
No,
I'm not.
I'm not opposed.
When I'm working with clients, is it a ridiculous idea for us to move forward? Right?
Oh,
I learned that from
yeah,
Chris Voss. So I'm not, Chris Voss
yeah,
is he's a negotiator. He was an
yeah.
FBI negotiator. I learned that from him. So I don't want to make it seem like, oh, AJ is a genius. No, AJ learns a lot from a lot of people. So when I'm working with people, I only want to hear no. Right? Are you opposed to starting to work with me? No, I'm not. Okay. Cool. Is it a ridiculous idea for you to get this invoice in back to me today? No, that's not a ridiculous idea. Okay. They never say yes. I don't even go for yes anymore. That's to only hear no.
That's amazing. That's a
Yeah.
wonderful mindset shift.
Yeah. Because people have been so trapped by yes, right? Was this a good interview? Do you think I did a good job? Right? Do you like this? If I can get you to say these many micro yeses, when I ask you for the price, you're gonna say yeah. But people have been done, they've been duped by the micro yeses so long, we're scared to say yes
Mhm.
because yes gets us in a bind. So we don't even
Yeah.
want to say yes anymore.
So true. Because I do think, and I might have heard this from Chris Voss's book, but now that I think about it and you say it, we feel empowered when we can say no. It's almost like it puts us in the driver's seat somehow.
Of course.
Yeah.
And
Mhm.
to me, the way I've started thinking about it is because I always try to learn from people and then see how I can look at it in my life. I have a 3-year-old goddaughter. You know the number one word she learned from 1 to 3? No.
No.
So I'm like, that makes sense why no would feel more comfortable because she started, that's the most frequent word she's heard. That's the word she uses now for everything. So then why wouldn't I use that and go back into the whatever the limbic brain or whatever part of the subconscious that has no plan in the background and use it to my advantage. But then also give people a way out if they don't want to do it. Because ultimately I still want what's best for you.
Brilliant advice, AJ. Wow.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. This is incredible.
Yes.
What a gift to hear your wisdom. I know you work with a lot of people and you wear a lot of hats. You're really great in not just business, but in mindset and life. So what's your why? What keeps you going on the tough days?
Coming from a big family, I didn't even talk about how many kids my father has. My father has, let's say he has more kids than my mother.
Oh,
Uh,
wow.
Double my mother. We'll just put it there. He has more than double my mother. Um, so I have a lot of nieces and nephews, and I want them to know that greatness runs in our bloodline.
Oh,
Because growing
it's
up, I didn't.
powerful. Yeah, it's
Yeah,
powerful.
growing up,
Greatness.
I questioned that a lot.
Wow. Greatness runs in our bloodline. What a beautiful, what a generational impact. And talk about having the ability to break any generational curses that might have come along, or just any limiting beliefs that the little ones in your family might have, to be able to look at you. Amazing.
So that's my why.
Wow. So what's on the horizon for you? What's next?
Keep touching people's lives. Keep getting those.
Yeah. Keep
Keep
getting those. Yeah.
keep getting those.
Yeah. Keep getting those.
Yeah, keep getting those. So, I would even say to your audience, to shift their mindset, because
Mm.
you never know how impactful what you're doing right now will be for somebody else. Man, I got a chance to witness that yesterday. I'm on this Zoom call and it's a guy I know named Cardius. And it's a lady on there. Her name is Fly Girl. She's the first Marine fighter pilot. in I think maybe the US history. So she goes by the name Fly Girl. Her name is Vernice. And she's a speaker. She's an amazing person, right? And Cardis comes on and he says, you know, he said, life is crazy how it's full circle. He said, I was at an event when I was a kid, when I was younger, I don't think he was a kid. And he said, I didn't have a chance to go change clothes because my clothes got lost in the airport. Like somebody took my luggage or whatever. So I came to this event in a football jersey. And he said there was a woman on stage and she was talking about what it takes to be a pilot. And afterwards she came and talked to me. And she said, I'm Fly Girl, and one day you can be Fly Boy. And because of that, Cardis is a pilot today. And he got a chance to thank Bernice. She had no idea she spoke into his life over 20 years ago.
That's amazing.
Because of her, he's a pilot now. Because she told him it was possible.
Yeah.
So to all of your audience listening, keep going because you're going to be that to somebody.
Mhm.
You're going to let them know what's possible. And because of you, they're going to do it.
AJ, incredible. I know you've got a lot going on. If someone wants to connect with you and learn more about your coaching or just wants to get to know you a little bit more, what's the best way for them to connect with you?
All my social medias are at AJ Vassar.
Okay.
And I'll make sure that's in the show notes.
Yeah.
And I have an assessment that people can take, and it's called the Knowledge Profit Assessments, because I believe a lot of us, if we understood how to make money from our knowledge, that we would be in a better place. We would understand whose problems we're solving because we'll just look at our knowledge and say, okay, these are the problems I need to go after. So I have a totally complimentary assessment they can take. It scores them. I send them the scores, and I'll even meet with them to talk about the scores if they want and show them how they can improve those scores. So I'll give that to you as well to give to them.
Thank you. That's an incredible gift. So I hope everybody takes AJ up on that offer because he's obviously got a lot of wisdom and a lot of skills, tangible and intangible skills. Thank you, AJ, so much again for your time today and for being on the show and for being such a light, life-giving person and being so much fun.
Thank you for having me. This was great. You got me emotional. I don't know if I like that. I have to tell my mother. Yeah, but no, I this was great. Thank you. Thank you.